This lesson is really a review lesson, but we're going to need to know how to solve multi-step equations in this unit. So we're just going to do a quick review here, and there's no quiz on this section, but you can walk through and remember how to do multi-step equations. So the way you solve them is these steps right here. And if you need to, I would pause, take a screenshot, and write these down in your notes so you know what the steps are. Distributive property, then we're going to combine like terms, so we're going to get rid of parentheses, combine like terms on each side, use addition or subtraction property of equality. That means we're going to add or subtract from each side to get a variable term on one side and a constant on the other, and then we're going to use multiplication or division to solve for the variable. So first off, identify the first step. What should be the first step? Well, remember, we've got to get rid of parentheses first. And the way we do that is we use the distributive property, because now we say 9 times x and 9 times a negative 1. So this would be 2x plus 9x minus 9. And on this side, we would have 16x plus 16 minus 5. That's the first thing we have to do, is to get rid of those parentheses. So that's the distributive property. Now, here's this multi-step equation. So the first step we did already. Then we combine like terms on each side. 2x and 9x are combined like terms to get 11x. And 16 and 5, 16 minus 5, we get to 11. Now the next side is we're going to use the subtraction property of equality to isolate the variable term. We want to get the variable alone. So in this case, we're going to subtract 11x from both sides. We get 5x. And now we're going to subtract 11 from both sides to get negative 20. So now we have the constant on one side and the variable on the other. It does not matter. If you wanted to subtract 9 and then subtract 16x, works either way. And now to use the division property of equality, we just divide both sides by 5. So x is equal to a negative 4. Now, one thing you can always do is verify the solution. Is x equals negative 4 a valid solution? So I'm going to show you, if we pull up our calculator here, let's clear this out. We can just substitute in negative 4. So I'm just going to walk right through. 2 times negative 4 plus 9 times, in parentheses, negative 4 minus 1. And I get negative 53. Now I'm going to do the right side of the parentheses. 8, and then parentheses, 2 times negative 4 plus 2 minus 5. Now, if you're doing it on a calculator, you got to make sure you put in parentheses. Your calculator knows order of operations, so it knows to do the multiplication before the addition, but you need to make sure you put in parentheses. And I push enter, and it's negative 3. So those two, negative 53 and negative 53, are the same. So yes, that is a valid solution, because when we substitute it in, the result is a true statement. Negative 53 equals a negative 53. So that's the way you can always verify, and it's really good to do that because you might have made a simple addition or a negative error or something like that. So I would suggest always verifying, especially if you can do it quickly on a calculator. Okay, so it works the same way if we have fractions. Fractions kind of look ugly and messy, but we would do the very same thing. So in this case, the distributive property, when you take 2/5 times 1/2, remember you can reduce, cross-reduce, and that's 1/5 y. 2/5 of 20 is 8, minus 4/5. 9/20 times 2 is 18 over 20, which reduces to 9/10. Or you could reduce this as 1 and 10 and get 9/10. So don't get intimidated by fractions. But now once we're here, what's the next thing we need to do? Well, the next thing we need to do is we need to get all the like terms together. And on this side, we have those two. And on this side, we don't have any like terms. So we're going to actually combine like terms on the left side of the equation, because that's the only side of the equation that has like terms. Now, you'll see again, we've worked through this. We've combined like terms. And we've got 11/5 equals 2/5 y. Now, when we apply the division property, when you multiply fractions, or when you divide fractions, you're actually multiplying by the reciprocal. And so 2/5 times 5 over 2 is equal to 1 over 1, which is equal to 1, which is what we want. We want 1y. So that's why when we divide fractions, we're multiplying by the reciprocal. So if we multiply by 5/2 on the right side, we multiply it by on the left side. And notice 5 and 5 will reduce to 1. And so we have 11 over 2. Now, if you don't do that, you could get 55 over 10, and then you say, oh, but that can reduce. Both of them can be divided by 5, which is 11 over 2. So you're going to get the same answer. But the value for y is 11 halves. And you could check that on your calculator as well. I'm not going to go through the whole steps, but let me just show you where those things are. If you wanted to verify and start with 2/5, you just do 2, and then this button right here is n divided by d is 2/5, and then we click our right arrow, and then we can do our parentheses 1/2. And anytime you want to get out of the fraction, you've got to click the right arrow. And now it's times 11 halves plus 5, close parenthesis, minus 4/5. And I can hit enter at that point, and I get 23 over 10. So now I want you to pause the video, and I'm going to move the calculator over to this side and try that just for practice to get that in and see if it verifies and if that's 23/10. Okay, hopefully you could figure that out and you get 23/10 as well. So checking your work is always nice to know. You can check and see if you get the right answer. Okay, so let's move on. With decimals, the same thing. We're going to use the distributive property, we're going to combine like terms, and we're going to solve. So if we take a look at this, we've got to this point here, we're going to get I'm going to add 2.5 to both sides. So on the right side, I have 11.5p, and then I'm going to subtract 37.5 from both sides. It's kind of squishy, sorry. So I get negative 57.5. Now we just got to get p alone by dividing both sides by 11.5. And we get negative 57.5 divided by 11.5 is equal to negative 5. So p equals a negative 5. And if you want to go in and check that, you're welcome to. If it doesn't come out or you get some kind of weird answer like, I'm not sure, I would always recommend checking. Okay, let's follow the steps and let's solve this one. So first step, we're going to distribute to get rid of the parentheses. So I've got 6x plus 18 minus 4x equals 10x minus 4 plus 6. Now we're going to combine like terms. On the left side, I have x's. So 6x minus 4x is 2x. And then I have plus 18. On the right side, I have 10x, and negative 4 plus 6 is plus 2. Now I'm going to subtract 10x from both sides and 18 from both sides because I want to get x's on one side. So I'm taking the x's to this side, and I'm taking the constants to this side. So I get negative 8x, that's 0, and I get negative 16. Divide both sides by negative 8, and I get x equals a positive 2. So 3 times 2x plus 6 minus 4x equals 2 times 5x minus 2 plus 6. 2 is our solution, and I would recommend you pause and check that. So solving here, let's try this one, value of x. Pause this and try this one on your own, and then come back and check your work. Okay, so here is the answer is 13/3, and you might say 13/3, I don't know if that's the right answer, it seems kind of funny. Well, you can always check it. Now here's the long way out. I notice I left everything in thirds because my answer's in thirds, and so my verification probably is going to be in thirds. But you could put that in your calculator just as well, and you can find that that's the right answer. So even when you get kind of a crazy answer or you think it doesn't work, it can. So take a look at this one. We should be able to analyze this and find out what's going on. So he solved this equation and recorded his work. When he verified his solution, it didn't work. So this is not the correct solution. So let's take a look. The first step was to distribute, and we've got that 8.2 minus x minus 16.4, negative 2.3x plus 13.8. Negative times negative is a positive, so that should work. Then the next step, we have 15.6x, add those together, minus 16.4, that looks good. And then we have a negative 2.3x plus 35.4, but notice we have plus 13.8 minus 21.6. Right there, we didn't combine. This should be 13 minus 8, so that's like a negative 8.2. So in step 2, the like terms were not properly combined on the right side of the equation. That's the mistake. So that's why I say check negatives and look. So let's verify this solution. Mia solved the equation to determine that m equals 2 is correct. Is the solution. Is she correct? Well, how do we know? Let's pull in our calculator and let's find out. So we're going to say 7.8 plus 2 times 0.752 times 2 plus 0.4, and you could put 0.4 and 0.75, but you don't need to on your calculator. So, and we get 11.6. Now let's check the right side of the equation. Negative 6.4 times 2 plus 4 times 0.5 times 2 minus 0.8. And we get negative 0.4. So is that solution correct? No. And why is it not correct? Because that's a false statement. 11.6, if we put it in, it says 11.6 and negative 0.4. Are those equal to each other? They are not. So that is a false statement. So in this case, we would say she is incorrect because it's a false statement. All right, let's practice this one. I'm going to walk through this one with you because it's a fraction. So we're going to go 3/4 times 2a. We're going to distribute these. So I've got 6a over 4 minus 18 over 4 plus 1/2 equals 6/5 a plus 40/5. Now I'm going to simplify some of these just because it makes sense to me. So I'm going to say this is 3/2 a, because 6 over 4a. 18/4 is 9/2. So negative 9/2 plus 1/2 is negative 9/2 plus 1/2 equals a negative 8/2, which equals negative 4. So that's a negative 4. And on this side, I've got equals 6/5 a plus, and 40/5 is 8. So now I'm going to combine. I'm going to add 4 to both sides. So I get 3/2 a equals 6/5 a plus 12. Now we're going to subtract 6/5 from both sides. And this is where you have to remember fractions, 3/2, and you can just put it in your calculator if you don't want to go through the steps. But we can combine, we can get these into common denominator. So common denominator would be 10, so we multiply both of these by 5 over 5, and we get 15 over 10 is equivalent to 3/2. And we multiply this by 2 over 2, so we get negative 12 over 10. And so this is 3/10 a is equal to, and we're left with 12 on this side. Then we multiply by the reciprocal, and we're going to get, and I can say 3 goes into 12 4 times, and I'm going to get a equals 40. So that's the way you can do that problem, and then you can verify that as well. So there's a quick review on multi-step equations. If you have any questions, let me know, but hopefully that'll help you as you move on.